Nerd Takes.
Nerd Take.
Nerd take.
I'm Justin.
And I'm John.
We're joined by two Lamberts, flanking the two hosts of Normal. Andrew, you've seen him a few times.
Hey, guys.
And then twin brother of John. We should have had you sit next to each other
Nah.
to
No,
prove
that's
that.
okay. We're good.
We have Mr. Matt Lambert.
It's fine. I look more like
You
him.
have to have
Howdy.
Justin between them so you can tell them apart.
We need
Yes.
we need the
yeah, I
beards
know,
on one
right?
side.
So we are here to do a quick nerd take on a Bardstown product that we picked up while we were in Louisville.
Yep.
A couple of months ago. This is the Bardstown Small Batch Stave Finish. Now I'm going to read you a little bit about what this bottle says on their website, or what Bardstown says on their website about this bottle. Curiosity can lead you to some incredible places. It's what called us to Kentucky in 2016 to build a distillery like no other, and we haven't stopped innovating since. From our glass rickhouse to our Napa Valley style tour, we're pushing the boundaries of bourbon like no one has before. Not because we're particularly fond of bending the rules, but rather to reimagine what the category could be. One that's more innovative, transparent, and collaborative, because if you want to create an entirely new bourbon experience, you can never stop exploring, never stop discovering, never stand still. And that's kind of what Bardstown does, right? I mean,
That was kind of our initial take without us ever reading this. So it was kind of our thoughts on like having visited them and like them being the new kids on the block, so to speak. So yeah, this is, we were on par with our assessment of them.
Yeah, and what they do a lot of is they do what are called collaborative series or collaboration series, and basically because they're such a new distillery, they've had to essentially outsource or bring in
source
different bourbons or whiskeys from areas of Kentucky and Indiana, and a lot of times they don't really tell you who it's coming from. In this instance, we know a little bit more about it, so there aren't any like notes or flavors or things like that on the website, but I can tell you more about just the bottle itself. The distillery is, quote, various. Summary.
You don't say.
It's like a mixtape.
Yeah, it really is. So it's a blend of straight bourbons from 4 distilleries finished with oak staves. The blend includes, and this is what's pretty cool, it includes an 8-year, 4-grain bourbon from Georgia.
Okay.
So you can maybe guess who that is. A 5-year-old rye bourbon from Bardstown Bourbon Company. So this is part of theirs.
Okay.
A 4-year-old rye bourbon from Green River Distillery, and we've actually reviewed Green River on here before. The
Full Proof, yep.
And it's a
Full Proof is quite good.
huge sleeper, and and also a 12-year-old rye bourbon from Heaven Hill.
Oh,
So it's got some pretty.
You've got an interesting blend then. Okay.
It's going to be really fascinating to see what this actually tastes like, and if we like it or not. It is bottled at 94 proof. So it's a little bit lower than I'm used to drinking, but I purchased it because it just sounds super fascinating, and based on all the other ones that are on the that were available at the store, pretty much who we were with, like everyone bought a different Bardstown bottle.
Yes.
So
All right.
it was released in September of 2024, and again, no mash bill, and I've already told you a little bit about the age. MSRP of $100. So Matt's new to this, so I'm going to have you go last on all of our things, just so that you're not put on the spot. But we're going to go through the tasting notes. So first of all, let's talk color. So is there a particular color you might give this one? It's a little bit lighter maybe than some of the higher proof things, but it's got a really cool like
an amber.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, this looks like
kind of a
looks like
honey color maybe.
There you go. Yeah.
Darker honey. Yeah.
Yeah. Like a winter wheat.
Winter wheat.
Winter wheat.
So, and again, your guess is as good as ours. Let's
I
talk.
don't know what winter wheat looks like. So
Me neither. We'll go with
it sounds good though.
amber honey.
Okay, I like that.
There you go.
Nose palate finish. So we'll start off with what kind of flavors are we getting? I saw a couple of you guys already jump in there with the nose. So Andrew, you go first.
Yeah, so I got some spice from probably from the rye. I got some cinnamon in there, orange peel, and there was something else in there I couldn't place. I want to say like leather, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. So when I first dove in, I definitely got the rye, and then I gave it a second, and I actually got a lot of sweetness on it. So some of those traditional like caramel, vanilla, bourbon notes that you typically get, but then going back in, it's that rye spice is pretty over, which is interesting because these are just high rye bourbons. They're not rye whiskeys that are being blended. Yeah. So it's interesting that rye note is pretty prevalent.
I agree with the orange. A lot of orange peel. I also think that it's got maybe the irony of it being like colored like honey and orange. I think it actually has some honey
Yeah.
smell to it. Do you pick anything else up, Matt?
I agree with John a lot. Definitely the first thing I smelled right out of the gate was the vanilla. Like that's what hit me first was the vanilla. And then I can definitely smell, it's weird, but there's a certain astringency that you get with like oak barrels. So like I can definitely smell the oak barrel just from sticking it up against my nose. I can kind of smell it kind of hiding underneath there. And then, yeah, there's the normal, I don't want to call it normal bourbon smells, but there's some normal bourbon smells with some rye and some other stuff like that as well.
And getting the oak makes sense because I mean, there's some old stuff in there. There's 8 years old. There's a 12-year-old bourbon in here, so you're going to get some oak on something that's been in a barrel that long.
Yeah.
What about our palate?
So first thing I noticed, super sweet.
It's very sweet.
Very, very sweet. It mellows.
Light.
It's
light.
super light.
Very light.
Very like it's an easy bourbon. You know, there's not. I didn't sense a ton of like complexity to it. It's a nice, simple bourbon.
Here, you can use this one.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. It is a little bit. There's a little bit of spice in it, but it's not super overpowering. You know, this wouldn't necessarily be one that I would. This isn't necessarily my jam because I want to like punch you in the face, but it has got, I think, some really mellow, gentle flavors to it.
And the spice comes on the back end because the finish is actually surprisingly long.
Yeah.
On this, and that's where I get a lot of the spice
For
something being
94 proof.
Exactly.
It's got a decently long finish, and I think Matt, the wood, the oak astringency, especially in the finish, it comes through.
Yeah, that's where I can get it is the back, and I agree. And yeah, John hit it on the head. Like you take a little sip, and it continues, right? Like it just keeps going. The flavor kind of just kind of develops a little bit over time. You kind of got a little bit more. So I'll be honest. I'm not a bourbon person. I don't drink a lot of bourbon. I drink other liquor, and so for me, I understand that you're saying it's a little smooth. For me, it's a little bitey.
There's nothing wrong with that.
You know, for me, I've got before I put my little tiny drop of water in there, right? I had it was a little bitey when I first came in, especially on the tip of my tongue. Kind of tweaked me a little bit, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then put a little bit of water in there. It does kind of open up the flavor a little bit, and so then really kind of got that smell right at the end, where you could really start to pick up everything that was underneath. So definitely had that oak, but then definitely the spices was right at the end is when I picked them up.
I think it's got a pretty decent finish. It actually had some surprisingly good legs to it too.
Yeah.
Which
that too.
Didn't really expect to have that.
Yeah, adding the water actually did enhance the nose to where it's much spicier, like not nearly as sweet, which was interesting.
Yeah. All right. Fascinating. Well, let's give it a rating. So, Andrew, you get to go first.
What's the price on this one again?
$100.
$100. So that's going to shade me down a little bit. I tend to be a value for money type guy. It's good, but I don't know that it's $100 good. I'm gonna give it probably what's a 7?
Dagobah
Luke, training Luke. Yeah, 7-ish.
John?
So I was going to go one less. I was going to go Hoth Luke.
Yeah.
Again, not terrible, but not my jam, so to speak.
I don't hate it.
I don't hate it, and if I hated it, it'd be a lot lower than that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because we've hated things on this show before.
Well, there you go.
It's just typically I'm a little bit more of a sweet guy when I'm looking for whiskeys. It's not the spicy. You're into the spicy. I'm more into the sweet, so this just doesn't really hit my wheelhouse. That being said, it's still good. It's got a great finish, got some good flavors to it. So if you like that kind of thing, great. But 6.
Yeah, I want to say Forced Ghost Luke only because it isn't my jam, but that's kind of unfair, I think, to this because
True.
it actually I want to be like relatively objective and say that it is a good bourbon. It just isn't necessarily the kind of bourbon I like to drink. So having said that, I'm actually going to give it a Empire Luke, so 6.5.
6.5. All right.
Yeah.
Curses. That was my rating.
You can
out of the
rate
gate.
it the same
You
thing.
can rate it
right out of the gate. Like as soon as you said give me a rating, I'm like it's definitely above a 5 because I would drink it.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yep.
so for me, okay, I would drink it. It's not a 10 because I would not go and seek it out. Right. That's not what I would do. So definitely for me, I say 6.5.
I also think this is maybe for someone who isn't into drinking hard alcohol at all. This might be like a really good entry level bourbon or whiskey, I guess, and just to try something out that is like, this has got some unique flavors to it. It's not super overpowering.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it would be good mixed, but I think it'd be really great as a Manhattan. Maybe less so than as an old fashioned. Maybe. Possibly. Producer Justin, what are your thoughts?
It's funny because, John, you're into the sweet, as am I, and Justin, you're into the spicy, which I'm not. And I can't get much from either on this. Like, I feel a bit of heat on my tongue, but there's not a lot of finish. But it's also not overly sweet. There's a little sweetness there, but not terribly. So I don't know. It seems to be like right in the middle. I think I concur with the group of I would drink it and it's not bad, but I wouldn't pay $100 for it. So I'm probably right around a 6.
Yeah, I'm going to shade mine back down actually to a 6 too, because I don't like the finish. Like the more it continues, the less I like it. I'm finding that I really don't like old bourbons because I don't like the oaky finish.
And there's not even much of one.
There's not, but it just sticks around and it's annoying and I don't like it.
Yeah.
All right. So Hoth, Empire,
Yeah.
Empire. All right. That's a review for Bardstown, the small batch stave finish. Pretty cool distillery, definitely worth checking out. And they have such amazing selections of things. So they got something for everybody, but
Looks like a museum in
it's
there.
really pretty fascinating. So, Lamberts, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Nerd Takes. Bye.
Nerd takes. Bye.